Coming up on We Talk News this week, a group of former DEA chiefs and Republican DAs want a hearing on the movement to Schedule 3 for cannabis as the prohibitionists gear up for a fight. It's time to make your voice heard. And Maryland Governor Wes Moore makes a huge statement with a mass pardon for low-level cannabis offenders in their legal state. And North Carolina Senate takes the first step towards decriminalization by passing legislation for a medical program, but will still face stiff opposition in that state's House. Pennsylvania finally restarts its adult use reform effort in their legislature. Is the timing right now? And two signs the world is moving towards acceptance and normalization. The German police are pleading with passionate English soccer fans, aka the hooligans, to use cannabis instead of alcohol during the European Soccer Championships. And have you ever been to a Portland Pickles baseball game in Oregon? That independent league team is the first to sell legal THC-infused beverages at a game. The times, they are a-changing. All that and coast-to-coast cannabis reports on We Talk News with Alaina Pinto. Next!
Music Studio.
We are Pro-Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of We Talk News, the weekly cannabis roundup produced by Pro Cannabis Media. I'm Alaina Pinto. There's an opportunity to add your voice and words to the ongoing cannabis reform effort in Washington, D.C. The DEA is soliciting to the public to offer their cannabis stories while the decision process continues to move cannabis to Schedule 3 on the Controlled Substances Act. There have been 20,000 comments so far recorded, with a report that 97% were positive or pro-cannabis opinions. The public comment period ends on July 22nd, and we want to encourage all of our subscribers, followers, and viewers to take advantage of this process. As the movement towards federal reform continues, former DEA chiefs and former Republican state district attorneys want their very own special hearing with the administration to counter the reform movement. This would be a private hearing, perhaps to counter the overall support by 70% of Americans who want to see the plant medicine legalized. There's no word if their request has been granted, nor even whether they should have this opportunity. As former government representatives, they are now members of the public and can use the same platform that all other citizens have access to. We will have the link and the QR code that's tied directly to that comment forum on the screen in this program. The state that is closest to Washington, D.C. is Maryland, where that adult use market continues to grow. Last week, our Washington, D.C. reporter Andrew Behringer was one of the first to report on the mass pardon handed down by Maryland Governor Wes Moore. Like many adult use legal states, governors are being urged by President Biden to do exactly what Maryland and Massachusetts governors have already done: pardon hundreds of thousands of low-level, nonviolent cannabis convictions. This one in Maryland did something no other state has done, which is to include people who have been arrested for paraphernalia. You know, the bongs, pipes, and other accessories that are used to consume the plant medicine. Well, here's some comments from people directly involved in this reform step, including Jason Ortiz from the Last Prisoner Project.
This is the biggest day in cannabis justice history, and it means that the entire nation is watching what is happening here in Maryland today and figuring out how they can become a part of this movement.
The impacts are so far-reaching. I mean, in the lives of those who will directly benefit from the pardon and their families, just the incredible removal of barriers to economic opportunity, education,
housing and financial assistance for food and jobs, and an infinite amount of different ways that they can fully participate in society as full citizens.
We all stood together to make this pardon as impactful as it could possibly be. The fact that Maryland is the first state to add paraphernalia charges to its categorical pardon is so huge.
I was one of those young people that was arrested for cannabis possession as a young person at the age of 16. Being able to see somebody at the highest levels of government really listen to us and see what it is that we need as people is just, it warms my heart and inspires me to continue to do this work every day and take it across the country and all the way to the White House.
I not only commend and appreciate the governor's courage that he demonstrated today, but I take him at his word that we are just getting started.
Thank you so much for being that courageous leader that we've been waiting for a very long time.
Think about this. If he lived in Maryland, the legendary Tommy Chong would have his record pardon for selling the bongs that sent him to a federal jail for 9 months in 2003. Other states besides Maryland and Massachusetts that have pardoned nonviolent cannabis crimes include Oregon, Nevada, Kansas City, Missouri, and Birmingham, Alabama. Flying below the radar during this current reform movement is the indigenous people of Native Americans. They are very active on their tribal lands where they operate outside federal laws. This past week, there was a major cannabis convention for the people who were here in North America before the Europeans discovered this continent and took over. Here's Tina Tasaka with her Nevada report.
I'm Tina Tasaka with 420 Technologies, and this is the Nevada report for Weed Talk News. Just fresh off the Native Nations events, 9th conference for cannabis and hemp. Once again, it delivered incredible networking and brought tribal Native American leaders and cannabis professionals to hear insights about our incredible plant and the future of cannabis. What are the tribes doing going forward? So many tribes were in attendance from New York to California, Canada, and Minnesota. It was held at the world-class Pechanga Casino Resort in Temecula, California, June 18th and 19th. So where is Nevada in this? What is the makeup of the Native American tribes in Nevada, and what are they doing in cannabis? Here's the rundown in the Silver State. There are 20 tribes, and 8 are involved with cannabis. There are 10 tribal dispensaries. With the utmost humble respect and honor, I will do my very best to pronounce the names correctly of the tribes. Nuwu Downtown has a massive facility with dispensary, sky-high consumption lounge, meeting facilities, outdoor courtyard, drive-through, and more. Their sister store, Nuwu North, is 20 miles northwest and also features a 24-hour drive-through. Niwi Cannabis Store in Elko, Nevada. This opened in April 2020 by the Elko Band Colony of the Timucua tribe of Western Shoshone Indians. Niwi promotes itself as the best dispensary for miles in rural northern Nevada. Its mission, according to the company website, is to provide much-needed economic development for the tribe. Nabuduka Dispensary in Lovelock, owned by and operated by the Lovelock Paiute tribe, is a 90-minute drive from Reno, and it's all on Interstate 80 eastbound. Another dispensary in Ely, Nevada, Nasanga Dispensary, means feels good. This is the Shoshone tribe. Pesha Numa Dispensary, this is the Yerington Paiute tribe. They credit its economic future to its cannabis dispensary, said Vice Chairman Elwood M. Quote, "It offered a lot of relief during the pandemic, both financial and physical," M said. "We've seen huge demand for the plant from both locals and visitors." Unquote. Dire financial problems caused the medium-sized tribe of just over 300 members to shutter its tribal medical clinic in the years before Pesha Numa launched. Revenue from the dispensary has single-handedly allowed this rural tribe to become fully operational again. Water Canyon Dispensary in Winnemucca, owned by the Winnemucca Indian Tribe Colony, the Northern Nevada Dispensary, opened in the summer of 2020 and thrived during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Tumatsaquay Newbie Dispensary, which is in Schertz, this is the Walker River Paiute tribe, opened, and they are in the Central Nevada Cannabis Store in early 2022. The name translates to Healing House. The last two are Three Nations Cannabis. They're 100% tribally owned, and they have 2 stores in South Reno and Verde. Well, that's it for this special tribal edition for the 702. I'm Tina Tasaka with 420 Technologies and Weed Talk News.
Another state where the only available cannabis is on indigenous land is North Carolina, where the Eastern Bank of Cherokee Nations runs and operates the Great Smoky Dispensary. Now there's another attempt, though, of bringing a medical program to the entire state. This past week, the state Senate passed a medical bill, 33-9, that would decriminalize the plant for medicinal purposes, thus becoming the 39th state to do so. The Senate handed the House there a similar bill in July of 2023, only to see it vetoed. Well, now Republican Senator Danny Britt is hoping to, quote, get out in front of the expected federal declassification to Schedule 3. There are still a few steps before this becomes law, of course. So there's that. Medical program, though, continues to grow in Virginia, where Joe Parsons is right in the middle of the advocacy movement. Here's Joe's Virginia Cannabis Report for this week.
I'm Joe Parsons with the Virginia Cannabis Connection, and this is the Virginia Cannabis Report on Weed Talk News. For 12 years, the Virginia Hemp Coalition, formerly known as the Virginia Industrial Hemp Coalition, has been fighting for cannabis rights, not only for Virginia, but for the entire cannabis community. The VHC was instrumental in the bill that legalized hemp in the Commonwealth in 2015. On a national level, they collaborated on the 2014 Farm Bill, the 2015 and 2017 Industrial Farm Acts, and played a huge role in the final Farm Bill in 2018 that legalized hemp with less than 0.3% of THC on a national level. With the pending Farm Bill in peril due to the Miller amendments, I thought I would reach out to the president and founder of the Virginia Hemp Coalition, Jason Amatucci, for his thoughts on this surprise attack to the hemp industry.
It's really tough right now for them to compromise on anything. And so we know right now that there's a very bad amendment, that basically tries to take away all intoxicating cannabinoids from the marketplace and national. Yes. And there's a comment period that's open right now. I don't know if you're going to share that with in the comments of your video.
Most definitely.
To do. Yeah, that'd be great for them to go ahead and comment and talk about how we should not be, making things illegal. We're making parts of the plant. We're going backwards with cannabis policy here, and that's not going to help anything. We're still going to have cannabis marketplace, whether it's legitimate or not. And so this is what these politicians have to wrap their heads around, that we can either have legitimate business that's above board and show in the light of day, that's regulated, or that should be regulated fairly, not with monopolies, right? Or we have another system, which is black market, and it still exists either way. So we're just trying to talk some sense into these folks and realize that you can prohibit whatever you want, but it doesn't actually prohibit the products from getting to consumers that want them. And again, just it's very simple. It's not rocket science. Regulate it like alcohol, tobacco, and let it be a free market. We don't have interstate commerce control over. You can't take beer out of the state. It's ridiculous. But alcohol does have its consequences sometimes, just like any substance does, right? So the double standards, we're over the double standards, and that's kind of our main focus here. And that's why I think all of cannabis type advocates should be focusing on pushing for the double standard here, because they really can't say anything back when you hit them with that logic of why are we not treating this like alcohol at the very least, when it's less dangerous and it's something that consumers want and should have a right to consume for their health and wellness.
I would like to thank the Virginia Hemp Coalition and Jason Amatucci for their time and input to Pro Cannabis Media. More from this amazing interview will be available soon on my blog channel, the Virginia Cannabis Connection. So be sure to check it out. Well, that's going to do it for this week's Virginia Cannabis Report. From the Virginia Cannabis Connection and reporting from Weed Talk News, I'm Joe Parsons. Till next time, stay lifted.
Now we turn to Texas, where the governor there, Greg Abbott, and his attorney general, Ken Paxton, have been trying to stop some of the largest cities in that state from enacting their own reform initiatives on cannabis. That effort was shut down this week in the Lone Star State, and Lisa Williams has our Texas report on that.
I'm Lisa Williams, founder of the Toke Agency with the Texas Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Well, y'all, we got some spicy news cooking up in the Lone Star State. This week, a judge dismissed a lawsuit that was challenging voter-backed local cannabis reforms in Texas. The lawsuit, spearheaded by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, aimed to overturn local ordinances passed by voters in cities like Austin, San Marcos, and Denton, and a few others. These cities had decided to decriminalize low-level marijuana possessions, and Paxton wasn't too happy about it, claiming it conflicted with state law. But the court decided to uphold the will of the voters, saying, "Not today, Ken." The decision is a significant win for local democracy and cannabis reform advocates in Texas. It means that in these cities, people caught with small amounts of marijuana won't face criminal charges. Instead, they'll likely get a citation, much like a speeding ticket. This move not only alleviates the burden on the judicial system, but also spares individuals from long-lasting repercussions of a criminal record for minor possession charges. Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves. This ruling doesn't mean that marijuana is fully legal in these cities. It just means that the enforcement priorities have shifted, and local police departments are being encouraged to focus on more serious crimes rather than a small-time pot possession. It's a step towards more sensible cannabis policies, but we're still a long way from legalization. Adding a little bit of Texas flair to this, you could say that while the rest of the state is still as dry as a tumbleweed when it comes to cannabis reform, these cities are starting to show some green shoots. It's like finding an oasis in the middle of the desert, refreshing, but there's still a long journey ahead. This ruling could inspire other Texas cities to push for similar reforms. It shows that local governments can have a say in how cannabis laws are enforced, despite the state's more conservative stance on marijuana. It's a glimmer of hope for advocates who have been tirelessly pushing for change. To wrap things up, Texas might not be turning into a cannabis-friendly state overnight, but this ruling is a big win for local authorities and progressive cannabis policies. So keep your boots on the ground and your eyes on the horizon, because change is coming one step at a time. I'm Lisa Williams, the founder of the Toke Agency with the Texas Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News.
That'll do it for this week's A Block, or first section of our Weed Talk News show. If you want to see the entire show right now, it's available on the procannabismedia.com website. And the B Block will be coming up next and released on Tuesday on our YouTube channel. So don't go away, or better yet, like, share, and subscribe. Weed Talk News continues after this.